Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I present to you, Brother Chris Ludke.
Listeners, scholars, brothers, this is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to continue our summer short series by exploring another Old Tyler talk, this one entitled Geometric Bull. And the reason we're doing this is there are some very unique takes, very interesting ideas in each of these Old Tyler talks. These are very short pieces, and there are many, many more than what we're covering here. I strongly recommend you get your hands on the book. It would make some amazing education in the lodges or just for yourself. And as always, these were written in 1924. There are ideas, vocabulary, etc. that we would not be commonly familiar with today. As those come up, I will pop in and let you know what's going on there. Otherwise, let's get into the material. Again, this is Geometric Bull from the Old Tyler Talks by Carl Claudy. There are a lot of things in Freemasonry, began the old brother to the old Tyler. Bravo, cried the old Tyler sarcastically. Who told you all that? And some of them, continued the new brother, are more or less bull. I yield to no one in my love for the order, but I see its faults. And when I am expected to learn the science of geometry as part of masonry, I know I'm being bullied. There is no more sense in including geometry than there would be in including paleontology. Or I love to hear a man say he can see faults in Freemasonry, interrupted the old Tyler. Because then I am in the presence of a master mind. Generations of philosophers have made masonry what it is. When a new brother can plainly see its faults, he is greater than all of these. Of course I do not mean it in that way. I just meant that do I? Well, then I suppose it's better not to mince words about it. To say there is no sense to geometry is to advertise the fact that you know nothing and care less for the symbolism of the order. Take from masonry its symbolism, and all you have left is a central thought with no means of expression. Imagine a great musician, deaf, blind, and paralyzed, his heart ringing with wonderful melodies and harmonies, yet unable to give them expression. And you have a mental picture of masonry without symbolism. Symbolism is masonry's means of expressing thought. And geometry is not arithmetical study or mathematical study, but a symbol. Geometry was an outgrowth of the first science. The first glimpse brute man had. There was aught in nature, but hapless chance or the capricious doing of a superior overlord was when he learned the stupendous fact that 2 and 2 always makes 4. From that humble beginning and recognition of the master law of the universe, which is that law is universal, unchanging, and invariable, grew the study of things, their surfaces, their areas, their angles, their motions, their positions. Modern methods have gone farther than Euclid, but his work was perfectly done, and Euclid's geometry stands today as a perfect thing as far as he took it. Geometry is the science of order, reaching back to the first recognition that there was order in the world. It may stand for anyone who has eyes to see, as it does stand in masonry for man's recognition of God in the universe. It is a symbol of universality. By geometry, we know that natural law on earth is nature's law for the stars. There have been few atheists in the world, but I venture to say that none of them have studied geometry or astronomy. They know too much to deny the existence of the great geometer when seeing his work. Geometry is everywhere. It is in the snowflakes' measured lines of crystallization. There is geometry of the honeycomb and geometry of the cone of a fir tree. Mountains stand or fall as they obey or disobey the laws of geometry, and the spider in her web and the planets in their orbits alike work according to the universal laws of geometry. I think God's thoughts after him, said the great astronomer Kepler, looking through his telescope and thinking of the geometry of the skies. If we know two angles in one dimension, we can find the other dimension. Man has angles and dimensions, and if we know enough of them, we can find the rest. One of man's angles is his love of masonry. Given a real love of masonry as one angle, a willingness to live her precepts as the other, we can tell what sort of man he is now, used to be, and will be in the future. It is a real geometry that we commend to you, my brother, because it is a symbol of law and order, of deity, of universality, but is spiritual geometry, which you should study rather than the propositions of Euclid, bearing in mind that they are symbols of that which Masonry most venerates, most wisely teaches, and most greatly loves. Our ancient brother Pythagoras discovered the wonderful demonstration of the great architect, which is the 47th problem of Euclid. And so when I hear a young squirt of a mason with his eyes barely open to the long path which is masonry winding through the stairs to God, through the stars to God, say that geometry is the second is bull, I wish I were young enough to take him out in the back lot and treat him as I would a small boy who found humor in church and fun in sacred things. And, "Oh, stop," cried the new brother. "I was wrong. I don't understand. Say, where can I get a geometry book? I want to know more about that 47th problem." "In the reading room," growled the old Tyler. "And say, son, when you get it in your head, come back here and explain it all over again to me, will you?" And this is a great piece by Claudy, looking at, for example, these ideas of geometry and symbolism within Masonry, why we follow them. It is said that geometry and mathematics give us the tools to prove divinity, because we do not so much invent mathematics or geometry as we discover them. They've existed from time immemorial. The problem is bees and ants and other things, they aren't really good at doing things like algebra. But humans can, and so we can find these things and they can be seen as proofs of divinity. That there must be a divinity, there must be something that set up these laws, these rules in the universe, such that 2 and 2 is always 4, no matter where you are, anywhere in the cosmos. It is a remarkable piece of thought that he's put in here about why these symbols exist and why we should study them. Why we should look into them. At the end of the day, someone put them in there, someone smarter than myself, or probably most Masons out there today. I mean, these were people who were well known for their thought process. And so we should ask ourselves why. Why did they put them in there? They're there for a reason. And can we find that reason? Can we find the lesson that we're supposed to take from it, hidden in the background of all of this information that we're given during ritual, during the lessons, from various working tools or teachings? I encourage you to explore, not always the practical elements, sometimes the Masonic elements of the symbols that we so often teach and so often, ignore, hoping that dinner comes a little bit quicker or we can get home a little bit earlier. Brothers, again, important talk, but that being said, thank you for joining me, Brother Chris Leakey, and the entire Further Light team on your quest to find more light through Masonry.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and more light. Once again, that address is wimasons.org. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at education@wisconsinmasons.org. And thank you for listening.